Hey y'all, this is Miss Garcia, and today we'll be doing a mini lesson on cellular respiration. Because Smartboard doesn't work, I have to do it like this. You'll be using these guided notes that you see here to fill in, but I will say we are going to be skipping this first box, so I'm just going to take it out. You can cross it off, okay? Now to the PowerPoint. Let me make this full screen. So we've already talked a great deal about cells and why they need energy, and here are some of the main ways that cells need energy: light, heat, chemical, kinetic, electrical. Now these are the types of energy, but what exactly in our cells does it require for energy, right? And here's where you're starting your notes. It says all organisms need energy for, these are four things: active transport, so to move things throughout our cells; cell division, so when we make new cells; movement; and production of proteins. All of these things should be written down, and all of these things are what all organisms need energy for. And so where do we get this energy we need to live? I'm sure you already know this. We get it from the food that we eat, and that's what you can fill in. Basically, food gets broken down so small that it makes its way all the way to our cells, and the process that does this, the breaking down of food, the breaking down of glucose, is called cellular respiration. Feel free to pause at any time to write down your notes. I will move on. So the mitochondria, we've talked about the first day of our new unit, and the mitochondria, as I told you, is known as the powerhouse of the cell. Basically, that just means where energy is made. That energy form known as ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So the mitochondria make chemical energy in the form of ATP. Remember that ATP is like a battery. It's the currency in our cells that we use for energy. Here's a picture of mitochondria, and here's a picture of our cells, and you can see that we have many different types, or not different types. We have more than one mitochondria in our cell. Pause here if you need to. Third bullet point, so once the food is inside your cells, the mitochondria take charge and crack the chemical bonds in the food that you eat. And lastly, this energy is stored and released using a molecule, again called ATP. And here's a picture of a really good burger with a ton of disgusting mayo. Gross. So now flipping to the back side of your notes, it says ATP. Just to review, it's an energy molecule. It's the basic energy source for all cells. Living things use ATP to store and release energy. Think of it like a tiny, fully charged battery. And again, all of our cells need ATP. On the other hand, ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate, and here's a picture on this lower left-hand side. It's called diphosphate because, again, there are two phosphate groups instead of three in triphosphate. So an ADP, it's made when energy is released from ATP. You can think of it as like a partially charged battery, an old battery. It has some energy, but not as much. So what about oxygen? You just finished watching a video of a guy who is deadlifting a ton of weight, and you also watched the free diving, and so those activities required oxygen. In the case of the guy who was deadlifting, he didn't have any oxygen, and that's why he ended up fainting. So the reason why I bring up oxygen is really important for cellular respiration. This is why we call respiration aerobic cellular respiration. That means aerobic means in the presence of oxygen. And to find out more information, you can watch this video. I will link it in your lesson plan, your digital lesson plan, and you can watch it there. So aerobic cellular respiration is the process by which cells take in that food, that glucose, and they take in oxygen, and in return, they release carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. To learn more about it, you can also watch this video. You can watch it after you're done taking your notes, and I will link it in your digital lesson plan. Cellular respiration in the mitochondria. Here is a picture of respiration, and there's also a video you could watch as well. You can see here that respiration has three main parts, which we will talk about. The first main part is called glycolysis, And basically, this is when you have one molecule of glucose, it's broken into two molecules of this thing called pyruvate, which is just a bunch of carbon put together. It takes place in the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the inside of our cells. You do not have to draw a simple diagram. You can ignore what this says. The second part of cellular respiration is called the Krebs cycle, and this takes place in the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, and this is when that pyruvate, that carbon, is broken down into carbon dioxide. And the last part of cellular respiration is called the ETC, which is the electron transport chain. All this means is oxygen goes in, and this is again aerobic respiration. Aerobic means there's oxygen. It takes place in the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, and this is what turns that weaker form, that partially charged battery, ADP, into ATP, and it produces water. Here's another video you can watch to help you out. But in summary, this is basically what cellular respiration looks like. So if you wanted to add this to your vocabulary sheet that you did a couple days ago, this is a good picture to draw. You can see the two inputs, the two things that go in, glucose and oxygen, and the three outputs, the three things that come out, which are water, carbon dioxide, and energy. You can think about it like when you're working out, sometimes you're sweating, that's water. You're also breathing out, that's carbon dioxide. And you're also moving, that's your energy. Here is the equation, and this is the last part of our notes, and this is what you're writing down. You should be writing down both of these. On the left side, you have the reactants. That means what is needed to react. And as I said before, that would be glucose, which is right here, that's C6H12O6, and oxygen. And your products or your outputs are, again, your carbon dioxide, your water, and your energy. And once you're done writing it down, you are done. This is just a summary. You don't have to write this down. Both plants and animals need to do cellular respiration. They need to break down food. They both have mitochondria. They both do cellular respiration. And that is it for today. Thank you very much. Keep going with your lesson.